audience today to respond to that. Do we have any questions from the audience today? Do you have any questions or comments on the history of police reforms of the police? Do you have any questions or comments so far? If you have, please raise your hand and I will allow us to unmute, and you can put the same across to Dr. Otieno. Any questions or comments so far? Any questions or comments? Do you have any questions or comments so far? Okay. So if there are no questions or comments, I'd like us to continue. So over to you, Dr. Otieno. Oh, Waringa has raised her hand. All right, Waringa, please go ahead. Are you able to unmute yourself? Please unmute yourself. Go ahead and speak. Waringa, you may go ahead, unmute yourself, and put in your question or comment. Thank you. Waringa, I can see your hand is up. Please go ahead and put across your question or your comment. You're free to do so. Waringa, are you there? Please unmute yourself.
She's no longer online. I think maybe her network.
I can see she's still there. Okay.
Oh, she's still.
Other than Waringa, is there anyone else with a comment or a question for Dr. Frederick as we move along? Any questions or comments? Okay. If there are none, I think we'll move on. So over to you, Dr. Frederick, to continue. So you've talked about the history of the police force, historical evolution of the policing and public order in Kenya. And then I think right now we are dealing with key aspects of police reforms in Kenya. Then we'll talk about challenges in operationalizing constitutional reforms. Then after that, we'll take a few questions or comments. Then we can discuss how do you operationalize the reform? What are some of the key steps that you should be thinking about? What are the pathways for sustainable, people-centered policing reforms? And then Dr. Frederick will also share a few world best practices. So over to you, Dr. Frederick.
Thank you very much, Kirinya. Now, I'll be going direct to key aspects of police reforms. Ladies and gentlemen, you remember that we have had several attempts. We have had several attempts to reform police in Kenya. Apart from the Ransley task force, recently in 2023, we had got a Justice Retired Maraga's task force on police reforms. I want to point out that much of what Maraga came up with were actually brought up by Philip Ransley, his task force, the 2009 task force. So most of these are not new. So we want to look at what are these key aspects of police reforms. What do we need to reform? Which tenets or which areas have been pronounced much conspicuously for reforms? So number one is restructuring and legislation. There's need to restructure the police service. Why? Because we have got a lot of issues on command and control of the police service. You remember the police were merged into National Police Service, which brought together the Administrative Police Service and the Kenya Police Service under the National Police Service. However, we still have got different commanders at various levels. From the sub-county, we have got sub-county AP commander and sub-county Kenya Police commander. At the county levels, we have got the county police commander from the Kenya Police Service, and we have got the county police commander from the administration service. So there's still need for restructuring, more restructurings. There's still much confusion, which Philip Ransley wanted to erase. The issue of legislations, we need to come up with some legislations and also amend certain legislations. For instance, the Public Order Management, the Public Order Act came up with certain provisions which needs some kind of a revision. For instance, you remember Article 5, which provides that you have to notify the OCS, the area OCS, for you to hold processions or picket or demonstrate. So this particular provision has been criticized by the civil society. In that, they say that it is infringing on the right of others, because many times you have seen the area police maybe saying that they were not notified about this particular meeting. So gathering, and we have seen many meetings being dispersed. The Public Order Act, Section 6, also prohibits carrying of weapons. And you see, they have not described the kind of weapon. Because for them, maybe if you carry even a phone, that one could be described as a weapon. So there's that opaqueness makes it controversial in enforcing such kind of law. Public Order Act, we look at provisions, Section 8 and 9, empowers the Interior CS and even the area police commander to impose curfew and even restrictions. And you see, this is to their own discretions. So this one, you have also seen the Transparency International coming out very much and opposing these particular provisions, that it is really also impeding on the rights of others, freedom of movement, because it has not given the threshold of what informs a situation which needs a curfew to be imposed. So we really need legislations, and also to make legislations which are their work. For instance, we have got the IPOA, which is Independent Police Oversighting Authority, which is actually now, which is the watchdog of the police. They investigate police misconduct. But we have seen reports indicating that they are not well funded. They have got a budget of around roughly around 1.2 billion, and their staff are hardly 200. And even their regional presence, there are around 9 or so regional offices. But you see, they need to be in every county for them to function effectively. So we need also to functionalize this particularly. The already existing legislations, like the IPOA Act. We have got the National Police Service Commission. Some of their functions have been transferred. So they don't have much say on the police, which means now the independence of the police is somehow compromised. We had got also the Internal Affairs Unit, which also investigates police, and it is within the service. So since it is hosted within the service, there's also an outcry that it cannot be independent because it's under the National Police Service, the Internal Affairs Unit, which investigates police. Yeah, this one was formed through Section 86, 87 of the National Police Service Act. The true aspects of police reform is training and capacity building. Ladies and gentlemen, although the training has been enhanced, there's much that needs to be done. I want to say that I was part of the team that came up with in 2010 and 2011 that came up with the new curriculum for the police and even the training manuals for the police, National Police Service, after it was, by the time it was being now merged. And we had got training. Training was extended to 15 months. Unfortunately, this year has been reduced from 15. Over time, they have been reduced from 15 to 9. Also, we came up with trainings on human rights. We came up with the curriculum on human rights. We came up with the curriculum on basic research methodology. We came up with the curriculum even for intelligence gathering. But as time went by, most of these subjects were removed. Because pre that, when I was still in the service, that is when I joined the service in 2007, these subjects were not being taught. We were mainly being taught issues to do with the skill at arms, how to handle firearm and shoot in the range. There were things to do with anti-riot, how to deal with the riotous mob. We had got subjects like drill. So most of the time we were outside. Most of the Nini were outdoor. So when the new curriculum came up with these particular subjects that needed the recruits and even cadets to sit in class for a long time, there was a bit of uproar, there was some discomfort because the top leadership believed that the police had to be, the trainers had to be out, the recruits had to be out doing physical exercise. And over time, some of these subjects were phased out. And then it was like back to basics, whereby you now just study drill, how to quell riots, and how to shoot, how to go about in the war, what is called fieldcraft. So most of these subjects like human rights, which are very key when you are quelling riots or when you are handling citizens, were removed. So there's need for training and capacity building for the police service. I've also seen like the way they quell riots. There's a lot that they are doing much better, but there's a lot that need to be done. Like, for instance, in the general service unit where I got an opportunity to serve, we used to have what we called anti-riot platoon. Anti-riot platoon was composed of inspector and 32 officers. Each time this unit could go on to quell riot as a unit. There was no singular time that anybody could operate alone. And there were specific people who were designated, who were given guns. And there were not more than 6 in anti-riot platoon. Out of 32, only 6 could hold gun. The rest were having baton, and there was also gas gunners, those who were given tear gas. So for me, I've not seen that being executed well. I think we also need to go back to train maybe our officers on quelling riots, because I've seen officers like 2, even some 4, some operating in group of 5, some even riding on a vehicle. Actually, when you are quelling anti-riot, you are not even supposed to use a vehicle. You are supposed to use foot. Even when you are withdrawing, you withdraw as a team, 32, with your inspector, with the sections intact. There's nothing like running away home run. And people normally go as a team, as a platoon of 32. So you cannot find 9 people or 4 people. So there's need for this particular kind of capacity building so that we can manage riots well. And then there are also layers. You don't just go and shoot. Shooting is normally a last resort. Number 1, it is reading proclamation. You tell people gathered to disperse. That is if they become riotous or they are unlawful, you tell them to disperse. The second one, you also do show of force. Just by appearance, you make them run away, because when they look at you, they see actually a bunch. 32 is not a small number. And then there are groups of 32. Then there's also use of baton. Because by time you could only beat people with a baton and they run away, you just use a baton. There was even no need of, we could not use even firearm most of the time. So when it went on, then was the use of tear gas canisters. We could throw them. And that was now extreme. But I don't remember an instance where I also was involved in quelling riot, where we had to go to use a firearm. So I think much needs to be done. But actually, I've gotten the gist of that, the number of that is being recruited, the number of police that is being recruited is so much. 10,000. You know, training 10,000 is not easy. Our time, they could be around 1,000 police officers being trained. And it was easy now to give quality training. But when you are training 10,000, that is a big number. You cannot handle that group. So there's that bit of quality is not there. And maybe that could explain the problems that we have. Then the third aspect of police reforms is community engagement and community policing. So we really need to inculcate this issue of community policing so that it's enacted in law, and we have got the community policing units trained and even resourced. It is good that Kenya adopted this in 2002 from South Africa. So most people went to South Africa to adopt this, to benchmark on community policing. It has really worked well in South Africa. But no sooner was it enacted and it was put into use, we had got community policing group. But over time, we have seen those community policing forums die, like in my village, and in my area, my sub-location, they were there, they are no longer there. So those are the first layer of security in any nation. So with community policing, we could really help a lot. The fourth aspect is oversight mechanism. I think I've talked about this. Oversight mechanism need to be enhanced. IPOA must be resourced, well resourced. Their staffing capacity should also be expanded so that they are within even the counties. They go up to the county level so that they work effectively. Also, there's also an issue about the laboratory because people also sometimes depend on the police when they are gathering evidence. But you see, now they're investigating the police. They also want to get evidence from the police themselves. So you see, it is not easy to incriminate yourself. Also, I've seen instances whereby they also explain about lacking forensic laboratory. They still depend on the National Forensic Laboratory, which is housed in the DCI headquarters. So maybe it is time we can give them their own National Forensic Laboratory so that they can also handle their case as well. Because it's really difficult. Separation of roles. Because they're investigating police, they have got to run again to their forensic lab to get tests. For instance, ballistics tests, so that they can actually maybe match the fire of a certain firearm. So that is an area that we need really to put much emphasis on. Then you have got also the issue of financial reforms. I've talked about it. When Philip Lansley came up with this report in 2009, the reform was to cost around 90,000 billions to implement. But you see, this was not forthcoming. Recently, 2003, the Maraga Task Force on Police Reforms recommended around over 100 billion to implement. And you see now, since then, not much has been done. So for us to come up with the reforms, we need to put resources. Yeah, we must have resources in place to have these reforms kick off. And you see even financially, you see even the issue of even police, their remunerations need to be increased. Maraga came up with that, and even the Ransley, the remuneration is not somewhere. And you see that one is why we actually also have some forms of corruption in the National Police Service, because if you earn little pay, then they will be susceptible to small bribes. And just, you remember yesterday, the Transparency International Kenya, they produced their results. They were posting their results, the 2024-2025 report on corruption index, bribery index. And Kenya Police was flagged as the most corrupt with a score of 85 out of 100 points. And number 2 was at 45 points. Imagine, from 85, and the second was at 45 points. 86, I mean. So police scored 86 points out of 100. That is very much worrying. So corruption, the issue to do with finances, they also need to be housing. The issue of housing has been there for a long time. They need to have housing. The issue of medical care. I know now you have got the National Police Service. Their hospital, they have got an hospital somewhere near Bagadi, but many officers I've met are complaining about the quality of medical care there. And you see now police need this like the way the defense forces are taken care of. They also need psychosocial support from psychologists and even counselors. So that one has not been forthcoming so well. So that's an area that we also need to address so much. There's the issue of public confidence. A lot of public have lost confidence in the police. We had got the report, the Transparency International again came up with a damning report in 2023 that the level of confidence was all-time low. So there's need now for the National Police Service to up this confidence, bring about because without this confidence, the public might not give them the information that they actually desire. And now crime control becomes a problem. Last but not least, there is the issue of culture change. So there's also need to change culture, the police culture. I know it is difficult to change. And I said at the beginning that much of the police culture came from the colonial era. But there have been changes in the past, but I think we are not making much progress despite the changes. And as you see, there's what we call the change model, the 3 steps change model by Lewins. So Lewins came up with the 3 steps. The first step is unfreezing. So you need to unfreeze. Just like you put the meat in the fridge, when you want to cook it, you must unfreeze. You remove it from the fridge and you condition it so that it can be cooked well. This is what we call now unfreezing. So even when you are bringing changes, there are certain, you must create a conducive environment for this particular change. Then there is now the stage for change. So this, when we are implementing change, there are certain aspects that you must do. You must also like encourage them. You must do things like training must be there, etc. Then the last stage is refreezing. Now, having gotten this change, you need to refreeze again. You put back to the fridge so that they maintain that particular level. But you see, that one has not happened. I think we normally unfreeze. Then when we start changing, we do, but we don't refreeze. So that is a problem that we have had. So there's need for culture change so that we can have got an effective police service that attract public confidence. Thank you very much. I think I'm done with that. So
Okay.
maybe the next step, I'll be looking at the challenges in operationalizing constitutional reforms.
Thank you very much, Frederick. So to summarize, maybe I can start with the first question. It looks like the challenges that we have in the police force are based on the history, the colonial history, that they have a lot to do with history, and then secondly, they have a lot to do with the political angle. Is that an accurate observation?
Yes, absolutely. Some percentage come from that. Some percentage originate from the history of the policing. You see, we inherited from the colonial service and we have retained much. It's just like the British. But you see now the colonialists were using it as a tool of oppression and repression. And much of that has not, we have not been able to erode those bad pasts from the police service. And I just want to correct you, don't call it a force, it is now a service, National Police Service.
It's a police
we have changed the name actually. And it is arguable. Some people argue that we have changed to a service, but it's still a force in a way. We just changed the name, but we did not change the software so that it becomes a service. It is still a force. That is debatable. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Because of time, I'd like to take one or two questions from the audience, from our participants today. And then we will move on from there. Do you have any questions or comments? Do you have any questions? Waringa, you raise your hand. Please unmute yourself and put in your question. So please introduce yourself and then put in your question or comment. Thank you, Waringa. Over to you.
Thank you very much. This is Vincent Waringa. I'm glad to introduce myself as the student to the teacher today. And when I'm here, I'm very glad that if I attend a class online, I find very able people who are fighting to get Kenya move forward. My observation is that I want to acknowledge that the records that have been provided here are very true, comparing to the sources that I've been using during the study. And also, I would like to ask this question: if you look at from the from the points highlighted, there's a very major thing that Daktari talked about called something that is ambiguous. When you are told that they should be peaceful, when you are told that they should not carry any weapon, they have not specified that at what point do we now call this thing a peaceful protest, and at what point do we consider these individuals as carrying weapons. And then much of police reforms or much of security management, I think, will be dealt with into when we look at it in a matter of micromanagement, where we now go down to the grassroots. We start with the individuals who are feeling these things at most, and then we start managing it maybe from the major problem. And if you look at our country, I'm sorry to say this, we've been having a problem with management, and mostly from the political side, because if you look at the records, maybe from the former President Uhuru Kenyatta's reign, we had the cabinet secretary by the name Fred Matiang'i. And during his reign, we did so a Kenya that everybody wanted. And in fact, when he was shifted from education to national security, everybody was like, this person best suits this situation. So if we can take much more into micro management and into the politics side of policing or security, I believe we can make a good progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maringa. There's a question in the chat, Dr. Otieno. How do incidents of police brutality impact community trust in law enforcement? How do incidents of police brutality impact community trust in law enforcement? So please take those two questions, Maringa's questions and that other question. Dr. Otieno, over to you, and then we'll come back to conclude with the remaining bit of the webinar. So over to you, Dr. Otieno.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think the last question, I think that is very much obvious because police brutality has brought, that is what has eroded the confidence of the public. It has eroded the public confidence on the police, and that is why it has got a far-reaching impact in that most people, when they see the police, some people, they instead of going to the police, they run away because not only do you need to experience this particular, maybe what we call the police brutality, but even when you see it happening, like we had got a video circulating, and I have got also young ones in my household, and you see now they have now got access to information. That is the worrying thing. Things go over, and you see these images were being replayed even in the TV, how the police is shooting, and you see now that kind of the young children, they were growing up, they see the police shooting and somebody's going onto the ground, and you see it is something that is really impacting even on the young children who are growing up. So I want to say that the issue of brutality on the police is impacting on the negative perceptions of the police service, and it is really it's making a lot of undoing to the police service. Maybe the National Police Service should just know that these things, they go viral. I've just told you that my young children saw them in the TV, and you see now they just believe, they are growing up knowing that they need to run away from the police. So that is something that should not happen. So maybe we can just enact those laws. We could just repeal some laws on the issue of maybe firearm. I think that is very clear, even in the issue of use of firearm and force. So if the National Police Service and individual officers can just go back and obey, follow the steps that are laid down on the use of firearm and force, then I think this cannot be happening. This is laid down. We have got the UN standards on the use of firearm, use of force and firearm. And they have actually indicated there's something called plan, whereby the P stands for proportionality. Proportionality. You see the proportion of the force used. The force used must be proportional to the adversary's force. But you see, sometimes you see somebody's being clobbered, somebody is on the ground. You see, this person is not posing any harm. Like somebody may be just holding, like we saw that person, the guy who was holding face masks. He was not posing any threat. But you see now the use of force, number one, is proportionality. Is the force you are using equivalent to the force that is being used by the rioters mob or by the adversary? Number two, on plan is legality. So on the use of force, there's something called legality. Before you use, you must ask yourself if it is legal. Is it legal to use this firearm or use this amount of force? Then we have got accountability. So before you use force, as an officer of the law, you must know that you are accountable to the laws of Kenya, to the citizens, and even to the courts. And the last one on plan is necessity. Before you use force, you must ask yourself, is it necessary at this particular moment? Because if you can achieve your objective without even using a button, then that is great. So is it necessary? Sometimes I've seen these particular protests can just be quelled by de-escalation without actually using force. You simply de-escalate and people go home. But sometimes you see sometimes it's because of command and control. Sometimes we lack command and control when people are dispersing routers. You find maybe the officers from the administration police are there. We have got officers from the rapid deployment unit. We have got officers from the Kenya Police Service, maybe a Station A, another officers from Station B. You see, these are a mosaic of officers from different stations who have not even synchronized on how they are going to approach demonstrators. And from among this group, you'll even find that a certain group has escalated the situations and they have contained protesters. And you see another group coming and even throwing tear gas because they're not in communication. There's no command and control among these particular forces. And that is what we should now avoid, so that we can have got a single command when we are quelling riot or when handling protesters. Thank you.
I think Waringa had a question.
Waringa, I didn't get it quite clearly. Maybe I didn't get it quite clearly. Maybe
Right.
Waringa, if you could just ask very, very quickly.
Oh, Waringa, maybe you can post on the chat because I can see Naomi Miner's hand is up. I'd like us to conclude with Naomi Miner. As Waringa, you post on the chat for Dr. Fred's memory. Naomi, please go ahead and unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and ask your question or comment. Over
Good
to you,
evening.
Naomi.
Thank you so much, Kipinge, and also thank you, Daktari. I really align with most of everything, actually. Let me say everything that we are discussing herein. And more so, congratulations to the Inter-Africa Empowerment Foundation for this great thought. Now to my question, and this, I'm basing it also maybe even to the planners of this forum, and I would run with the objective of an objective that was about an aim to strengthen collaboration between leaders and grassroots objectives. Daktari has clearly illustrated how there have been a lot of reform plans, even podcasts that we are having now, but they are being repeatedly done with no much of achievement. That's why we are seeing from the Ransley report to Maraga report, we still have the same challenge. And also having been a former trained officer with experience of the current policing, maybe as we think through and as we look at what has happened, especially in the last year to this year, Daktari has clearly explained on the aspect of how riots should be held. Actually, not every officer should be out quelling riots. Anti-riot platoons are the ones who are, according to the regulations, they are the way, there's a standardized way of managing or quelling crowds or protests, which is not happening. And maybe for various reasons, and I know, Daktari, I would wish you touch on the same. But again, maybe this is for everyone. What do we think can be done? Maybe our community also enhancing or rather creating room for the police brutality that we are experiencing in Kenya today, with lawlessness, with the things that we are seeing. What can be done to enhance and make our country a better nation? I'm asking this question in relation to the latest happening that happened during Ojwang's burial. They burned the station. Today I was seeing the challenge with the area students in a nearby college where they are now requesting the CS to reconsider having a station within, and the impact that has had on vulnerable people. And how do we stop such happenings in our nation as we think on the topic of today's discussion? Thank you, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Naomi. Dr. Fred, very interesting question there. When will this commission stop? When will you move to action? That's one. And then Naomi, thank you very much for your question also. And Waringa had asked a question. Could micromanagement help realign police reforms in Kenya? So maybe let's start with Waringa, and then we can go to Naomi.
Okay, or Waringa, I think micromanagement, that is what these particular reports have been trying to undo, the micromanagement of the police. And that is why we came up with the National Police Service Commission, so that they could be now the team that is charged with the affairs of the police. Remember, before 2011, the police, Kenya Police, was domiciled under the office of the president. And you see now there was that outcry that it was being managed by the executive. And that is why you came up with the National Police Service Commission, to make police independent, to avoid micromanagement. So I really don't think that micromanagement can actually help this particular problem. I think we need to do away with that. And it is interesting that the Maraga report is recommending divorcing the Administration Police Service from the Kenya Police Service, so that you have got two distinct services again. But by and large, I think when we give the National Police Service independence, then I think things will be better. I remember when, with the inception of the National Police Service Act, we used to have even this recruitment being advertised in the newspapers. The ones for the county commanders, county police commanders, regional commanders, DIG and IG were being advertised in the newspapers. They were being competitively recruited. But over time, I think things have changed. So what we need is just to give this independence, to give the police independence, and I think everything will be okay. Back to Naomi, I think that's a very good observation to the viewers and listeners. I think when we were in the college, we used to have got anti-riot drill pamphlet. We have got a manual which detailed how riots are quelled. And you see, anti-riot, especially the General Service Unit, where I was domiciled, we used to stress much because the General Service Unit was known for quelling riots. But you see, over time, I'm not seeing them on the streets. I don't know what is happening. By those times, it was only General Service Unit which was tasked with quelling riot. And you see, that one brought accountability. But you see, right now, you could see all manner of police, all manner of formations in the streets. And now there is chaos. Somebody comes from the beat, unapanda gari, you go to the street, to quell riot, people from another station, and you see there's no coordination. So I think that is why the rain started beating us. I think we should go back to where we had got special platoons, anti-riot platoons, where everybody has got a role and they work. And this was normally rehearsed for a long time before you go, and you know your strength. And there was not even no firing of a single bullet. It was marvelous. It was good. But now when you see 4 people, now which formation is that? 4 people or even 7 people? We don't have that one in anti-riot control. Even 3 people working in isolation. 11 people, 14 people. You don't just pick. So we have got the standard practice, the standard anti-riot platoon. So if we go back there, there'll be much accountability. And I think we'll also be able now to minimize the loss of lives during maybe some of these protests. Naomi talked about the people who are opportunistic elements. It is true that some people are taking advantage of the situations and they may be creating mayhem, and that is wrong. And I think it's the work of the police to identify these people and deal with them accordingly. Because as a police officer, you are trained. You should be able to protect those who are protesting and then arrest those who are looting and destroying properties. That is now the work of the police. You should not allow other people. So you protect those who are protesting, but then arrest those who are looting and destroying properties. And I think this one has also been pointing of hands on political interference, because sometimes over the last couple of years, I've seen people pointing out fingers that some of these people who loot property are actually sponsored goons. You have had those phrases, sponsored goons, to come and maybe to portray maybe a protest in a bad light. So it is a very tricky situation that actually we really need a discussion, a debate, and we see how we can deal with them, especially on dealing with those who are out to destroy properties and even loot, take advantage of peaceful protests to loot property.
Right. Thank you very much, Dr. Otieno, for taking time to respond. There is one more question, but I think we need to move on with the program. We only have just a couple of minutes left. So very briefly, can you summarize to us the aspects, the remaining aspects of the presentation, which is how do you operationalize reports, reforms? How do you create people-centered policing? Just highlight for us some of the ideas that you have, and also some of the world best practices in maybe 5 or so minutes, so that we can allow the audience to ask additional questions, and we can have a bit of a discussion about that. But so far, so good, and thank you very much for the audience for your questions, and Dr. Otieno for the engagement. Over to you, Dr. Otieno.
Thank you very much, Kirinya. I think in the interest of time, I'll go very fast. Now, I'm going to look at the challenges in operationalizing constitutional reforms. Of course, we have had reforms. We just need to operationalize them. Like, for instance, oversight bodies, they are already in place. The constitutions, we have got one of the progressive constitutions in the world. So we just need to operationalize some of these things. So for us to operationalize these reforms, number one, we need to do away with the political interference. We have seen this. Wherever we have got things like demonstrations, like issues dealing with the picketing, there's always outcry, the opposition crying for the government saying that it's the opposition who are doing this and that. So there's a lot of political interference, people hiring goons. We had got stories over the newspapers and in the media about certain leaders hiring goons to come and disrupt peaceful protests. So those are the kind of political interference that we really need to do away with. Yeah, so that we can have what if it's picketing, I think people just come picket and go home. But when you have got interference where some people are being allegations of people being sponsored, then I think we are not getting it well. Then you also need oversight bodies need to be resourced, because we have right now, I indicated, most of them are crying about the resources, about the budgetary allocations. So we need to resource them well. Right now they are under-resourced. Another challenge is evidence collection. I talked about this. Issues to do with the forensic laboratory, maybe for the IPOA, because they need to be independent. We also have got legal bottlenecks. For instance, now the police oversight, IPOA, right, they don't have prosecutorial powers. I think maybe for us to fast-track some of the cases, we need to give them prosecutorial powers. They can have prosecutors that are actually housed within their building, so that these cases can be processed pretty fast. Right now, if you look at the number of cases that are with IPOA, there are so many, and the number that have been prosecuted are very, very few. So to enhance this, that legal bottleneck need to be done away with. Then we also have got the issue of arbitrary arrests. That's a challenge that is impacting on these particular reforms. You have got arbitrary arrests, like the case of Ojwang. You see arrests, you are not processed well. When you are taken in, there are so many things. So issues with arbitrary arrest and excessive force, I think this one should come to a stop, and we should emphasize the issues of human rights, maybe training to the police officers so that they can obey this. They can obey the tenets of the constitutions. We also have got resource constraints to the oversight bodies, and also resource constraints to the National Police Service themselves. For instance, the salary, it's not. There have been a clamor for increasing the police salary. Issues to do with housing. We need good houses for the officers. Issues to do with the medications, health care should be looked into. We have got a lack of accountability as another challenge. Lack of accountability. We have seen that it takes long. Nobody wants to take accountability. For instance, when I was talking about accountability, there was what he called command accountability in the service. Like I was saying, when you are going out for a riot, the platoon commander should be accountable. Because in a riot situation, it is the commander who gives orders to shoot, orders to throw tear gas, orders to use water cannon, orders to use baton, orders to withdraw. So accountability, we must also hold the leaders accountable, starting from the platoon commander who is commanding. He has got a role as a commander, so he must be held accountable. We have not seen that. We have only seen maybe officers going in, but where were the commanders? We should be asking, who was your commander and who gave you the order? Of course, you don't take unlawful order. That is there in black and white. Then we have got a lack of command accountability, what I was talking about. And then last but not least, the issue of corruption is really weighing down on the reforms. I told you yesterday the Transparency International Kenya report on bribery, the National Police Service code 84. Is it 86 out of 100? So that is pretty bad for us. The second last part, maybe we can look at the pathways to police-centered policing reforms. What are the pathways? Number one, it's just the same thing. Strengthening institutions and increasing the budget. We also need to embed community policing so that we can deal with certain crimes. We can be the watchdog. Because security starts with me. I should be able to be the first point of call to the police officer so that I can report any occurrence. Then you also have got the issue of training and capacity building. I think we have not done much here. And I think Maraga also has recommended that the number of months taken in training institutions for recruits should be increased from 9 to 15. Actually, during Ransley's time, Philip Lansley recommended 15. And we actually actualized that. In 2011 and 2013, it was 15. But then later on, it was pushed back to 9 because we wanted numbers. Yeah, the nation wanted numbers as opposed to quality of training. So it was pushed back to 9 months so that we can churn out more recruits. But now, what is the training? You know, you can churn garbage in, garbage out. So we need to train, even if it's little but quality. We have had countries like New Zealand with very minimal police, but they're really effective. So we need to do something on training. Then we also need to leverage technology. Right now, we need to use technology because we've got issue to do with body cameras. They bring about accountability. In Britain, they're used body cameras. So every police, when you are there, you are being watched. It enhances accountability among the forces. Issues like digital OB, they should be there like yesterday. Use of drones, use of CCTV. I saw the other day it is good that our CS, Murkomen, directed that every police station should have a CCTV. I think that is a step in the right direction so that actually we can know what is happening behind the walls. Because when you see the murder of Ojwang, maybe a bad thing could be happening behind the walls. So we need to have a lot of technology, use technology. Even in policing, technology-led policing, we don't need to go out there. We can use so many technologies. Even we can even leverage on research to do policing. It's being done elsewhere. Then we also need to professionalize the police service. Apart from that, the issue of culture change I've talked about and accountability. Then we also need to resource the National Police Service well. So resourcing, actually we can also go out of our way and even look for resources elsewhere because resources are limited. We can get even the donor community. These big bodies, they can actually resource at the World Bank. They are out there. If you have got a good proposals, and we are gearing towards actual reforms, then I don't see if they can refuse to finance that so that they resource us and even we get other partners to work along with us. Very fast, I'll just highlight some success stories in policing that maybe we can copy. For instance, I've talked about body cameras that are being used in the UK and Scotland. They use much body cameras, and when they were used for the first time, the accountability, police accountability, rose by 31%. Yes, because when you are being watched, the big brother is watching. Because the nature of human being, when they are alone, they'll be able to circumvent the law. So if you know you are being watched, I think that one will do away with it. We have heard what the issue about the police wearing their tags, their numbers, service numbers. I think it is not very much being enforced. Sometimes when I drive along, I pass so many police officers without those badges with their numbers. You see that one, you can able to record the number 90114. Actually, you know the person you are dealing with. So without wearing those numbers, without wearing cameras, then I think we are not doing badly. So we have got the New Zealand and Canada. They have done much on resourcing the police anti-riot. It is called POT, Public Order Response Team, POT. New Zealand and even Australia, they've got this particular police that they have tasked only with suppressing riot control, crowd management. Not every police go out there to contain riots. We have got the POT, Public Order Response Team. So in Kenya, we used to have what the General Service Unit. Not every officer could go out there to quell riot. But you see now we are having all kind of formations coming out, Rapid Deployment Unit, Border Patrol Unit, and there have been Airport Police Unit, everybody, Critical Infrastructure Protection Unit, the General Duty. So it's mosaic. These people are not specialized in this. So we should have, like now, the New Zealand, Australia, we can have got what we call the POT, a specific police unit that is designated for controlling riots and are well armed with right equipments, like water cannons that they can use. They're also trained on de-escalating the situation. They don't just go and start maybe firing or throwing tear gas. They use all means to de-escalate the situation because that is their training. So maybe we can borrow from that. We can also look at South Africa, the community policing. I told you at the onset that Kenya sent officers to South Africa to borrow much on how they have implemented community policing. It has been a success story. South Africa was lawless before that, before the community policing. Even at the rate at which we still have got incidents, for them, community policing has worked a large part, to the large extent. It has really helped them a lot. So we really need also to benchmark still with South Africa because it is now improving. I looked, South African Police Service, SAPS, is doing well. Issue of merger, we can also borrow from South Africa. Before merger, South Africa had got 11 different police units. They were merged into one. And they're effective. They are just merged into one. I think we just need to merge our police into a national police service. We should not have Kenya Police, then Administrative Police Service. No. We just have got the National Police Service. Everybody, so that we only have got one command. We don't have two commands. That is what South Africa did. 11 police units were collapsed and made into one. We have got the case of Malawi. The issue of a Public Order Act. They have repealed their act, Malawi Police. They have taken their act to parliament and it was repealed. And a lot of human rights issues have been put into the new act, Public Order Act. The issue of giving notice for processions is no longer there. So we can borrow from that. I mean, we can look at a whole spectrum. You look at Rwanda, our close door neighbor here, Rwanda. Rwanda has informed they have really reformed their police through training human rights. And you see now they observe a lot of human rights. There's hardly any crime. The police in Rwanda will even escort you to your room. They serve the people. So you cannot get lost there everywhere. They patrol everywhere. They know what is happening. And they help the public without even demanding for bribe. And you see there is order. When you are not demanding bribe, people will just come on and obey the law. You see now like motorbikes, they just ride. They know what they need. Because once you are arrested, you cannot compromise them. You will be taken in. So even the border in Rwanda, you see they only carry 1 billion passengers. Because there's no shortcut. Everybody has got to obey the law. So there's a lot of accountability. So there are so many success stories that we can actually copy from. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to stop there in the interest of time. This is just a beginning. I think we'll come up with much of this town hall gatherings where we'll be discussing topical issues. I'm really happy. I want to thank everybody who took time to attend. Some of my students are here. Some of my workmates, former officers are here. I'm really happy that you took your time to come and listen to this particular town hall topic of discussion today. Thank you very much. Over to you, Kirinya.
Thank you very much, Dr. Otieno. Dr. Otieno has been our guest today and he's given us quite a number of insights. He's currently serving as the Deputy Director, Consumer Protection at the Energy and Petroleum Regulatory Authority, as well as an adjunct lecturer in criminal justice and security management at Africa Nazarene University. Dr. Otieno, thank you very much for your contribution today. I think I only have 1 minute or so to take a question or comment from the participants today. A question or a comment. We have very good exposition. Dr. Fred from Naomi Maina. Thank you very much, Naomi. Rather from Polo. Naomi Maina says that was an awesome exposition, Dr. Otieno. Excellent. Thank you very much for your feedback. Any more? Do we have a question? Yes, we have a question from Alvin Omondi. Alvin Omondi, please unmute yourself, ask your question, and that will be the last question for the day before I hand over to my co-host, Albert. Over to you, Alvin.
Thank you very much thank you very much for giving me this chance. My name is Alvin Omondi, a student of Dr. Frederick. Considering this point of lack of accountability, and also evidence from the trending videos of police themselves using abusive languages to citizens of Kenya, I'm dared to ask, is it true to say that there could be a form of resistance to these reforms within the police themselves?
Very much, Alvin. And maybe I would ask one more question on the chat. Is it true that some of the GSU officers are allowed to carry guns during riot and can kill anyone, can as well kill whoever leads the demonstration? Is it supported by law? So those 2 questions. I think you can start with Alvin's question first. Yeah, over to you, Dr. Fred. Then we can conclude.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, resistance for reforms. I think that cannot be far from the truth. But then I told you about, I talked about Levin's 3-step change model. I think we have not been going the whole spectrum of reforms. We start, but along the way we lose steam, what we call the reform fatigue. That is what has been ailing us. Number 2, it is about the goodwill of the top leadership. If they have got goodwill, then we could get these reforms. For instance, there's no need. We allow accountability to reign. Once the top allows the accountability to reign, then I think we'll be able to just achieve these reforms. But we don't have goodwill at the top there. The moment we have goodwill at the top, whereby somebody who have used unnecessary force, somebody who have misused firearm, because you have got justifiable circumstances of using firearm. So the moment we have got somebody being taken in and the top leadership supporting that this person needs to go in, we don't need this, everybody will embrace these particular reforms. But when at the top there, they do bad things and they're not being called out, then you see there'll be no reforms. So reforms start, they normally say that fish start rotting at the head. Fish start rotting at the head. So I think we need that from the top leadership. And then we'll just have reforms. And then we also avoid things like, I talked about political interference. I think that needs to be done away with. Once you don't have interference, and I was telling you as far as recently, you saw this last month, a honorable member was rushing to the parliament with the coming to amend the public order so that demonstrators don't even approach the precincts of parliament or the judiciary. And you see, Article 37 allows for people to picket demonstrate, and even present petitions to public officials. And you see, these public officials are in parliament. Public officials, some of them are in the judiciary. So if you are told that you are supposed to be 100 meters away from maybe to the precincts of the judiciary, so how will you present this particular petition? So you see, these are kind of political interference that I'm talking about. When you don't tell people that 100 meters from certain offices. And when you are demonstrating, you want to present your petition to these public officials who wield power, who are responsible, who are at the policy making. So when you stop this particular interference, I'm glad that the honorable member chickened out and did not proceed with tabling that particular bill in parliament. Is it true that the GSU are allowed to carry firearm? Yes. I talked about a riot platoon, 32 people, which is composed of 3 sections. So the 3 sections is led by a corporal. And in that section, we have got 2 people will carry a gun. 2 people carry gas guns. Those are used for tear gas, and the rest carry batons. Of course, you have got water cannons as well and other items, other tools that are used for quelling riot. But before that firearm is used, it is never just used. It is used as a last resort. Because number one, there's what we call show of force. You see, in the service, when you go out there, there's a manner, actually, the way you appear in that team, people will run away with helmets and everything. People run away. If people don't run away, you read proclamation. You ask them to disperse peaceably. If you see that that is not working, they're not dispersing peaceably, you advance, you use baton, you can them so that they can go away. If that is not working, there's the use of now tear gas canisters. If that is not working, you use water cannon. So it is a whole spectrum. There's a procedure. What are you supposed to use first? What comes first? So firearm is only used as a last resort. When your life is threatened, somebody is having a panga and want to cut you, your life is threatened, or life of another individual is threatened as a last resort. But then, as the head of state said, it is normally just used at the leg, if you have to use it, just to disable, as a last resort. But I want to point out that actually I'm privileged to have served in the General Service Unit, and I was involved with quelling riots at Kenyatta University. I've done so many places, University of Nairobi, and even in estates in Ruaraka. At no point was the platoons we were serving, there's no time that we used firearm. We had to use firearm. We used to quell riot by show of force. Just appearing, everybody was running away. Just appearance. Because we used to come as a team. But you cannot come out 5, 4, 3. That is not a platoon. When you come as a platoon, 32, groups of 32s, and you are in one formation, you go form block, right form, left form, you advance as a team. No people will stand that ground. So there is an order in which routes are quelled. I think we need just to copy that and even maybe leave anti-riot campaigns to the General Service Unit. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Otieno, for this absolutely useful insights. I'm even seeing quite a number of comments on the chat. Someone is saying it was an amazing exposition. I feel proud as a student at Tom Mboya University. Another one says very good exposition with lots of insights in police service and reforms. Another one says you nailed it, Dr. Fred Otieno. How I wish our government could borrow this information of police reforms. Maybe someone else is saying maybe we should move the National Police Service to the judiciary arm to minimize political interference. And Naomi says, I concur. And of course, Nyapala says, we're happy to have had you on this platform, Dr. Frederick. And someone else says this should continue, should have many of these sessions coming up. Thank you very much, Dr. Frederick Otieno. Allow me to, because of time, we are 10 minutes, actually 12 minutes past time. I'm going to ask my colleague and co-host Albert to conclude for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kirinya. What a town hall. What a town hall. It's been so engaging that I, as well as many others, could wish it could go on and on and on. Now, that said, the subject is very germane, not only in Kenya, but pretty much all of the African continent. Drawing the balance between providing security and protecting the citizenry, and also ensuring that human rights are not trampled, is a delicate dance. And in all the examples that Dr. Otieno has put forward of good police reforms, it's interesting that many of the countries where you would think there would be a head start in getting these reforms in place, like Nigeria and Ghana, did not feature in these good examples that he mentioned. So this is a clarion call for those countries that are far behind in getting to a place of comfort where that delicate balance between ensuring security and protecting human rights is done properly. So what can I say? We thank you all very much. I won't close because I'll observe protocol. The first Vice President and COO of the Trafficker Empowerment Foundation is on the call. So I'll allow her to make closing remarks and perhaps do a closing prayer. I just want to take this moment to personally thank Dr. Otieno and my good friend and colleague from another life, Kirinya, for hosting this very wonderful town hall. To those of you who says this type of thing should continue, yes, absolutely. Please take a moment, if you haven't already done so, to fill the Google form. We've posted the link on the platform. It will A, give us your contact details, and B, allow us to engage with you when there are more town halls on different subjects. And you see in the form the subjects that we have lined up for the rest of the year. So if you indicate your interest, we can begin to get a sense of what issues or subjects that you, as citizens of Kenya, you feel should be discussed and brought into the public arena. I yield now to Ms. Jumoke Akintaylor, if she's still on the call, to give any closing remarks, and then we call it a day. Kirinya, could you please just repost the Google form link so that
Okay,
it's
doing
the
that
most
right away.
is the most it's the most current chat. Jumoke,
Doing
are you
that
there?
right away. Just about to do it. I'm doing that right away.
Okay.
All right, so please take a moment to complete a Google form with your feedback and to record your attendance. So you've posted the link to a Google form there. We'd really appreciate your feedback and to record your attending, and especially to take your feedback. So over to you, Albert.
Thank you very much. I think Jumoke might have some voice issues because she's still muted. So I won't keep you any longer. I'll just ask that Kirinya gives the closing prayer or closing blessing as the country host, and we call it a day. Back to you, Kirinya. Thank you very much.
All right, let us pray. Our Lord and our God, we are grateful for the session that we've had today, for the interactions, for the learning, and even for our speaker, for the insights that have been shared. We pray for our police service, all the reforms that we want to see happening, all the desires that we want to see in terms of a revamped or reformed police service. We pray that you bring them to pass. We ask that you watch over us tonight, and we commit our lives to you for guidance, for direction. This we pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you all very
Amen.
much. If anyone wants to contact the country host, get a hold of the flyer, and you'll find details on how to get to him. Please don't bombard him with requests for employment. Let's keep the conversations around leadership and governance. But the reason that we're sending out the form is that we'll set up a back office to be able to manage all those who are interested in subject matters to be discussed on this forum, and B, want to make a contribution towards that. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.